The Working Artist Project is brought to you by Second Line Arts Collective. Learn how you can support at secondlinearts.org.
We're creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective. Moments in time, captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Working Artist Project. Tonight we got, before we get there, tonight, hey Greg, what's up, man?
Good evening, my fearless companion in this endeavor that we call the Working Artist Project. What's up, Darian?
Man, I'm all right, man. You know, I moved this weekend, so I'm a little sleepy. And I'm pretty sure my baby vomited on me right before it was time for turn the camera on. So I can't stand up. But other than that, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, that's the daddy life right there. We've come such a long way in our life.
I used to be like 22, 23, and it was great, man. But I mean, it's still great. It's still great now. But I'm old. Hey, so anyway, it's not about me, man. It's not about me. I have to remind, it's not about me. Tonight it's about the one and only Virginia MacDonald. I can say down in Mississippi where I'm from. She is an amazing, I think, man, maybe she's like top 5 clarinet players in the world. And it's funny, Virginia, you don't know this because I didn't tell you yet, but I found you. I discovered you like Christopher Columbus.
Okay.
On
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Well, all right. What a way to start the day.
I discovered that's how you know I'm about to say some BS. But I discovered her on Instagram, and right away I called Greg, and I was like, "Greg, man, this girl is killing, man. You gotta check her out, man. It's Virginia MacDonald." He was like, "Oh yeah, I know all about it." I was like, "Oh, my bad. Okay, cool."
And that was probably the same response Christopher Columbus got when he said he found a new world. Yo, this has been there. We know.
So, but for you guys who don't know, Virginia is from Toronto, Canada. Believe it or not, they have jazz music there and all that snow and wilderness and moose and all of that stuff. So let's get right into it, y'all. Welcome, Virginia. How you doing?
Hey, y'all. It's good to be here. Thank you both so much for having me. And obviously, Greg, we've talked before, so I kind of knew you just through Instagram as well. But Darian, I also knew who you were, same way. But it's cool to finally like meet both of you and talk in person, or not in person, but you know what I'm saying.
This is in person 2021 edition.
It's the best it gets. It's the best it gets right now.
That's funny. It's interesting too, like having these, we're just going to say relationships with a lot of people via Instagram and things of that sort. Cause like after a while I start to personally feel like I know you, or I feel like I know like a lot of other people and somewhat involved in their lives and stuff. But the reality is this is actually the first time we've had an opportunity to sit down and talk.
It's true.
And I just want, thank you so much for making that time. And I'm going to try and dispel all of the stories I've concocted about you via Instagram and things like that.
Okay.
Tonight, we're going to get down to it and figure out what's really going on.
Cool. Sounds good.
So let's jump right in. We want to know all about you. We know you were born in 1994.
That's right.
And
don't know where y'all got that one, but
yeah. So give us a little background so those new fans out there can know all about your story.
Yeah. So I don't know how in detail I'm gonna go, but basically, I was born in Toronto, into a musical family. So I don't know if both of y'all know this, but my dad is a saxophone player. So he's a tenor sax player in Toronto as well, based here. So that was like a huge part of my upbringing. So basically, I came out of the womb listening to music and listening to saxophone specifically. So I started playing music when I was really young. And I think I picked up the clarinet when I was about 7 or 8. And probably to some of you, a strange decision. But I was a rebel. My dad was basically like, okay, you have these instruments that you can choose from. I definitely didn't want to play the same thing as him. I was like, hell no. Um, and so I saw this instrument kind of sitting in the corner that he told me at the time that he doubled on. And so I'm kind of like, okay, that looks cool. It's different than the saxophone. And maybe, in my like 7-year-old brain, I was thinking this is something that I can do my own thing on. And so I was just drawn to that. And that's kind of how my journey started. So that carried me throughout high school. And I went to a really great community music program here in Toronto called, I have to give it a shout out, Humber College Community Music School. So that was like a huge thing for me. I learned so much through my experience there. And that led me to keep going on through college. I got a degree at Humber College in music. And yeah, since then, I've just been trying to do my thing. I've been really lucky. Like, music has opened so many doors for me that I thought would never be possible. So I've been really lucky to travel to a lot of different places. I went to India last year, right before the pandemic. So that was really wild. And yeah, I've got to play with some of my idols. So I'm really, really grateful for all of the opportunities that have been presented to me. So that's a little bit about me.
That's funny.
The cliff notes.
You mentioned when you first saw the clarinet, you wanted to be rebellious and pick that.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. The first thing that came to my mind was a conversation I was having with some friends last night, and we were talking about slacklining and how dangerous it was, and two friends were kind of getting into that, and I was just thinking to myself the whole time, I was like, man, you don't want to talk about danger and living life on the edge. Try and live your life as a jazz clarinet player.
It's all relative. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So, I mean, it was rebellious for me as a 7-year-old.
Totally. So, as a clarinet player, I would actually really appreciate the opportunity to kind of pick your mind and experiences about what was it like growing up playing clarinet? Did you grow up playing jazz? Did you have a classical background? And did anyone ever tell you that you can't play jazz clarinet?
Okay, so yes, no, yes.
Yes, no, yes. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background, I'm not gonna lie, it was not easy at first. Well, not when I was like 7 years old. Like, at that point, you don't really know what you're doing, at least consciously. You're not really thinking about it. Like, at that time, it was just like, music is fun. I like playing this instrument. I like playing with other people, because that was a huge part of my experience at this community music school, right? You get to play in like an ensemble setting. So that was really cool. And then as I got older, I started realizing, okay, wait a second, there's not really like too many people who are playing this instrument in this setting, because it's not really something that you're cognizant of when you're a kid, right? So as I got into like college age, I definitely did have moments where maybe I felt a little bit left out. People didn't want clarinet necessarily all the time in a more traditional setting that they might have envisioned for their own music. And that's okay, right? Like, I have no beef with that. I have no problem with that. Everyone has their own vision. But it was hard at that age, when you're already kind of feeling a little bit self-conscious about your musicality, to not always be getting the same opportunities as other people who I thought that maybe I was on the same level as. So that was definitely challenging, to be able to find my own voice on that instrument. And okay, that's the first question. I forget the second two already. I'm so sorry.
What did I say? Oh, I joke. I think the third question, I don't remember the second question, but jokingly, the third question was, I mean, again, it's like the struggle as a clarinet player.
Yeah.
And this is probably the most frequently asked question that I get, is like, somewhere in the paragraph is like, well, my band director says clarinet's not a jazz instrument. What am I supposed to do? And that was a large part of my upbringing. And I know had I not met Alvin Baptiste at a young age, and seen someone in like the flesh and blood, just, really playing the clarinet in a modern context and having it be done, I may have been dissuaded from pursuing that professionally. And so, on some level, I have admiration for people who have gone through that same struggle and overcome. And again, like someone like yourself who's playing a lot of music and playing some shit on the clarinet, it's I was just curious if you had the same experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what to say other than I must be crazy or like just a straight up weirdo. I mean, that's cool though. I love that, right? I've grown into that. But yeah, definitely when I was in high school, even college, I had questions all the time. Like, when are you switching to saxophone? Like, you must be playing like alto or tenor sax by now. Like, what's the deal?
Do you play
And
saxophone?
I don't. I
Wow,
tried
you've
to.
made it all this your whole life not playing any saxophone?
Well, I've tried a couple of times and it never stuck. I don't know why. I just felt like maybe I waited too late, and I know that that's not really like a true thing. It's something that you feel. There's never a moment where it's too late, but I started to feel as more and more time passed, like, okay, there's like tens of thousands of killing saxophone players out there. Am I going to start this late in the game when I already feel like I've kind of carved out a voice on this instrument? So that was part of it too. I played saxophone a little bit. I mean, honestly, I just find it frustrating too. That's the other part. I don't get it as an instrument in terms of the mechanics. And I guess a lot of it was just kind of sticking with what I knew. And I had been playing clarinet since, like I said, I was 7 or 8. And I just felt the most comfortable expressing my voice on that instrument.
We don't need no more saxophone players. You ain't got it. We've got enough of them. 10 billion of them. I want to get into, because you're so young, and the future of this music. And
okay.
how do you feel, especially now that we're in coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
And you're having to deal with a challenge that's unique to your generation, where the scene is crumbling around us. Clubs are closing. There's nowhere to play. There's no people to play with to get better at playing. Where do you think the future of the music is, and what is that going to look like over the next, say, 5 years?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a big question. Okay, I'll try my best to tackle it. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't know. I've always been the type of person who very much lives in the moment. And I think maybe that's by nature, right? In what we do as musicians and improvisers. So for me, even before this, it was kind of like I'm the type of person who likes to feel invited into a situation, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of wait for those moments. And that's kind of what my career has been to me. And that's what I still hope it will be 5 years from now, or the rest of my career, right? I like having those moments where it feels like things are happening. And if, in my mind at least, maybe this is a simplistic way of looking at it, if you can create that series of moments over time, again, maybe it's simple, but I think that's enough for me. So for me, I'm just trying to keep putting in the work. Like, that's what I've been doing. Like I said to you guys, trying to stay positive, because we're still in lockdown here. And just having that kind of day-to-day mentality has kind of kept me sane. In terms of where things are going in 5 years, though, like, man, I can't tell you. It's hard, right? Like, even here in Toronto, there's really only a few clubs that are left right now. So, we'll see what happens. Things close, things might open up. I'm not too sure,
Yeah.
So you were saying earlier, like, you guys are in the second week again of another lockdown?
So we're in the second month.
Second month. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. So we've been in lockdown since the beginning of December. But before that, I don't even know, guys. Like, I've lost track. I think this is like our third lockdown since, March last year, or whenever this started happening. So it's a lot, right? Like, even for like the most like stable, positive people, that is a lot to take on for anyone, right? So I'm just, like I said, kind of on the same note, like, I'm just trying to kind of roll with everything, and take the bad feelings and the good, and just accept them for what they are. You know what I mean? Right? And try not to get too weighed down by the bad feelings, because they will exist. It's impossible for them not to exist right now,
Yeah, it's, for people who don't know, if you listen to this and you're not a musician or you're not an artist, like, having, or even if you're in a different industry and coronavirus has shut your industry down, now you have to think, will my industry come back? And if it does, will it include me? And music especially, because like I was serious. Like, thank God you don't play saxophone, because there's 20 billion of them. It's only 5 gigs before. Now it's only 1. So, it's not going to go to that guy who's shedding. It's probably going to go to one of the names, and that's just
Right.
the reality of the situation. So that's why I asked the question. Like, I'm
Mm,
curious to know how it feels to be at the beginning of your career
right.
and trying to plan, like, okay, because you got to have a goal. It's like, okay, well,
Hmm.
maybe your goal before was, I want to play Carnegie Hall, but shit, will Carnegie Hall make it? So like,
Right.
how are you guys dealing with that reality? It's
Hmm.
very curious to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too that I've been thinking a lot about, and again, it's not like a tangible solution because again, I don't think that there is one necessarily right now. But something that I've been really trying to do a lot of is just looking inwards.
Mm,
Because it's funny, like I didn't graduate college too long ago. And I've been thinking about this a lot, how when you're in music school or jazz school, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of talk about the tangible things, right? Okay, if you practice this, if you do this, these are the right steps to take. But there's not a lot of talk about the intangible and the inward struggles that you
Mm.
may have as a musician and just a person on this earth, right? So, I mean, there's been nothing but time to think about those things in the past year. And so I've been trying to do a little bit more work inwards. And again, I don't have an answer for what will happen in the next year, the next 5 years. I don't know. I wish I did. But if I can be at peace with myself and my process right now, I feel like that's enough to try to keep me going on and carrying through, at least for the time being. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
absolutely. I like that answer.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it's it's funny. I mean, I guess we can go down that rabbit hole, and I think that's an appropriate way to head the conversation. As as someone myself, I totally identify with what you're saying in terms of kind of coping with the inner struggle. I'm sure
Yeah.
Darian goes through that too, and as artists and musicians, everyone watching is probably dealing with that on some level.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny. It's not funny, but I think it's really beautiful to have an opportunity to sit down with someone like yourself
Mhm.
or some of our previous guests, because again, a lot of times we admire them from far and are checking out your Instagram videos and just like, oh wow, Virginia is living the dream and she
Right.
plays so amazing, and I wish I could live like that. And you start again, like when I was talking about the stories that we concoct about people, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate the opportunity to sit down and actually figure out who people are, what they're going through.
Yeah.
So inner struggle, like musically speaking, like how
Mhm.
does the inner struggle, how has that impacted you? What kind of things are you dealing with, and like how do you overcome them to
Um, okay.
ultimately put art out?
Yeah. Oh man, where do I start? No. I'm playing.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think the big one is self-acceptance. And again, it's not something I think that people are a little bit afraid to take on that topic, whether it be because they're insecure, or they're just not comfortable maybe bringing those feelings or their own feelings to light, right? They might not even be aware that they are festering those feelings. But again, like I said, I have had nothing but time to think. So I've been thinking a lot about these things. Um, and it's funny that you kind of mentioned Instagram because I actually posed this question on Instagram a while ago. And it was this idea like, how do you become more comfortable with the idea of imperfection as an artist, right? And so that's been something that I'm thinking about a lot. And the idea of how do you accept yourself as an imperfect artist? How do you put music out there in this age where everything is so saturated and everything that you're presented with on social media seems so good? And how do you put music out there when you feel like everything you're seeing is like perfect or the next level, right? So it's been something that I've been grappling with, not just this year, but before that too. And I think it's something, like I said, a lot of artists feel deep down, but are maybe a little bit scared to admit. So I've just been trying to let things go in terms of what I put out there and how I present myself. And that's hard for me. It's like that in itself is like a huge struggle, a lot of days. But just putting out a video maybe and saying to myself, okay, I'm not totally happy with 30 seconds of it, or I totally cacked something here, but I'm still gonna put that out there into the world, and hopefully if it makes one person's day a little bit better, that's enough.
See, what you're talking about right now is called honesty.
Yeah.
No,
Hopefully not too honest.
Well, sometimes as musicians and artists, we forget that the sauce is in the struggle. So if you go hear somebody playing perfect, that shit is boring as hell. You're gonna leave. That shit ain't.
That's true.
So, but you go to one of your shows and we hear a little bit of struggle in there. That's life. That's honesty. Man, it's hard carrying your groceries home in the snow. You know what that's like. Greg don't know nothing about that.
On my moose.
That's on your moose.
On your moose.
I had to throw that in there for y'all.
On your very polite moose.
That's right.
I do say sorry a lot.
It's funny because when you were talking about like putting out a video, I mean, so you're conjuring up all these thoughts, but I watched the Michelle Wolf stand up the other day on HBO, and she was talking about selfies, and she was like, everyone, when you take a selfie, you should take a picture of yourself and then put like how many times you took the selfie before you posted it. So it was like, oh, you're having a great day, 67. But again, like what you were talking about, putting out content on Instagram and things of that sort, like that's, people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you have everything figured out. You're so secure and you just post things. And I'm like, shit, every post I make is a fucking emotional struggle and battle in my mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing, like people don't see or feel that layer. And it's so funny to me. Like I've deleted videos on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram in the past because I'm like, oh, like no one wants to hear this, like whatever. And then I've had people message me being like, oh, like where did that video go? So, like I said, it's relative, right? You can't, everyone's their own worst critic. So I'm just trying, again, to put things out into the world from here on out and just let things be a little bit more.
I think this is a perfect segue into the song you sent us, and we're going to play this. And it's entitled Up High, Down Low. And this is kind of what we're talking about right now, I think, right?
Very much so.
Why don't we just play that right now? Up high, down low. Yeah, y'all. The one and only Virginia MacDonald. Yo, that was nice, man. Then it was in 3/4 too. That's my 10th. That's my 10th grade. Yo, shoot.
What's 3/4?
You sounded beautiful, man. Please,
Thank you.
before we move on, you got to tell us who was all on that record because everybody was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're all Toronto musicians. So we got Mingja Chen on vocals, who also you can't hear her doing it on this recording, but she is an amazing improviser as well. Just like top notch. So she's singing. Dennis Lim Searson on piano. My friend Julian Anderson Bowes on bass, and Norbert Botosh on drums. So all kind of people who I came up with. A lot of us went to Humber College together, and we're here doing our thing up in Toronto, and they all deserve recognition. They're all amazing musicians.
Y'all representing. Y'all sound great.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
You wrote that, no?
I did, yes.
So what was the song actually about? I just gave it a meaning before we started playing it.
You know what? You're not far off. It's not too hard to decipher. So it's just like one of those dual meanings, right? So it's like the song is literally kind of the same thing, up high, down low. Okay. But yeah, absolutely. You're kind of right in that it definitely fits in with what we were talking about before. And it's just kind of trying to embody that feeling of what we go through, not only as artists, but also people in experiencing both the highs and, the kind of low points of our lives. Yeah.
That could have been about riding your bike,
It could have been. That's true.
Could have been about anything, you got
in an alternate world.
That's right.
That's funny. But so you've mentioned a couple times going to school at Humber.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you're Canadian, we're American, and a lot of times in so many aspects of life, I don't think we see an actual difference between the life, between us as countries and things like that. However, I really want to ask you about your college experience and like just as a Canadian studying music in college, like did you pay $150,000 in tuition to study that? Like how does that all work in relation to all of your American counterparts who are going to Juilliard and Berklee and things like that?
Yeah, listen, I mean, that part of it is wild. And it's something that I wasn't even really attuned to or hip to. Before I did this workshop at Berklee, I think it was, I guess it'll be like 3 years ago now, in this coming summer. And that's when I got a chance to talk to kind of people who were in America about how much they were paying for tuition. And I was like, oh my God. I literally almost had a heart attack. And the thing is, like, you mentioned Juilliard, but I'm thinking just like state schools. Like, I was in shock. I think for tuition at Humber, it was $8,000 a year, Canadian. So yeah.
$8,000 Canadian.
Yeah. So yeah, not very expensive. Now Humber, again, it's a college, so it's still like you get a bachelor, like it's a university, but university costs for like a music program would not be much higher here. So yeah, the price point is definitely a lot lower, and it's interesting because like I have friends who have come up from the States to study in Canada just because it's cheaper, right? So yeah, that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
That's crazy. So as a Canadian, do you feel like a lot of your peers like have it kind of like ingrained in their subconscious, like, yo, I have to go to Berklee if I want to be killing, or I have to go to Juilliard? Or do a lot of you all feel like it's, you know what, I can stay in Toronto and still excel in my career and play and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think it's hard, right? You can excel. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a very active scene in Toronto and other like kind of like metropolitan cities here, right? So there's other big cities. The joke is that everyone hates Toronto because we pretend like we're the only city in Canada, right? But there are other bigger cities that kind of have their own separate scenes. So it's like, yeah, you can stay here and have a good career. You can be a working musician or working artist. But it's difficult because I feel like so much of the recognition that a lot of artists that I like get. Part of that comes from being in the right place. You know what I mean? Like if you're not in New York, if you're not in LA, if you're not in New Orleans, like, kind of those centers of the music in America, it's hard because you're not going to be playing a lot of times with some of the people that you look up to, right? Not that there's not amazing musicians that I look up to here in Toronto, but there's just no comparison, right? When you think about the American cities. So it's difficult. And I've definitely thought about moving to the States, but let me tell you, y'all don't make it easy. No, like you're laughing, but the visa process is no joke if
Crazy.
You don't. What's that?
And you gotta make it past the wall too, which is like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a very serious problem.
That's me trying to be funny.
You got a pity laugh for me, so.
But that's totally true. It's like the whole getting your papers to legally come into the States and work and things like that is a total pain in the butt.
It's no joke. And it's expensive. Like not even like just talking about doing a tour in the States. And this is crazy. Like we're neighbors. It's like, why do you guys hate us so much? But like to just get a visa to come down to the States and do a tour. First of all, you have to get a visa for every band member that's Canadian. And I think I don't know what the price is right now. I think it's around $500 or $600 per person. Now that's to not get it expedited. That might take like a year to get everything to pass through, right? So to get it expedited, I think it's around $1,000 per person. So it's no joke, right? Like I've had friends come up and visit me and do some gigs in Toronto. They don't get a visa. You don't need to, right? It's very lax going the other way. And so that's kind of like a point of contention here. A lot of Canadians are like, well, like we need to do it to them too. But it's like, that won't make a difference, right? And then you're like cutting yourself off even more. So it is really difficult for sure. Like I'd love to make it down to the States at some point. I really, really, that's definitely on my list of things that I feel like I want to do. But whether or not it's possible, we'll see.
I can guarantee you this right now that you ain't got to come here, man. I think with like all those dudes you playing with, those men and women, like they're some bad motherfuckers. They just as bad as I live in New York. They just as bad as some people who live here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think with like technology and all that stuff, it kind of like bridged the gap that used to be why people came to New York or New Orleans or LA or Chicago and those kind of places.
Mm-hmm.
It might be more important for you to stay where you are, come visit New York and play some gigs, but create a scene there so I can come play in your city, you come play in my city.
Yeah.
We keep the whole thing alive like that by creating micro scenes.
No, absolutely. And that's the other thing too. Like I love my city. I love being here. And there are so many amazing musicians and so many fun things to do in normal times. And I think you're definitely like spot on about the technology thing. Like things in that sense are changing so much in that remote recordings are becoming such like a prominent part of what you do as a musician now. So we'll see what happens.
The exposure, like for instance, you being on Instagram, like when I was coming up, there was no Instagram for me to put solos on. You know, I had to show up.
No, for sure.
Darian was taping CDs to pigeons, man, just sending them out there.
Okay, I see.
Go to Canada.
Not cassettes.
No, yeah.
Oh, wow. I see.
I didn't want to say taping tapes to him.
Off the radio. That's another story for another.
But I guess like, you know, to tie into, you know, well, we all started this with playing clarinet and, you know, from my experience, like the hardship of being a clarinet player in a saxophone world or a trumpet world and things like that. But on the flip side, like you're talking about with living in Toronto or being a clarinetist, is there may not be a scene where you are, or there might not be many clarinet players growing up with and playing. However, that just means that the world is that much more open to the possibility for you to be that person, or for you to start that scene in Toronto, to be the cat in Toronto. Like when people come to visit, they're going to want to play with you, and there's not going to be anyone else to play with but you.
No, that's very true. Well, I shouldn't say no one else. I might get in trouble for that. But yeah, no, I totally get what you mean for sure. And then the other thing too is, I mean, in normal times, like I love the idea of touring. Like that's something that's been so big for me. And it's unfortunate because, well, I know this happened to everyone, but last year there were so many things that were in the works. But you know, that's a big part of it too. Like in normal times, ideally I'd be traveling, going to different places, meeting other musicians.
Mhm.
And that's the nice thing. I think now you don't need to necessarily be tied to one scene or one city as a musician. I see lots of people doing it where they're based in like 2, 3 cities now, right? So it's something to think about. And I don't know. I'm just going to see what happens. We'll see where things take me.
Yeah. Yeah, this coronavirus really shook us up, but it seems like you're navigating it gracefully. You're doing a lot of introspection and coming up with some new ways to connect with people through remote recording. You referenced
Mm-hmm.
also through Instagram and other social media channels. You know what I mean? Which
Mm-hmm.
is it's just it kind of blows my mind because I remember right at the beginning of this, I was like, man, the only way we're gonna be able to stay connected is through the internet. So
Right.
thank God for the internet. And then, okay, how do I create content that's engaging? Because you know what's boring?
Mm.
Watching someone play their instrument after 9 months. That's some boring ass shit, right? Like you just sitting there with your fucking bass or your whatever the fuck. I don't care anymore. Stop doing that. Like, but I think the younger generation, you guys are figuring out interesting ways to keep it funky and keep
Yeah.
like what are some things that you got brewing to keep us looking at your page?
Uh-oh. Oh my God. Okay, the pressure is on. Shit.
Or even what are some things that you have coming up in the future? Like what does the future look like for you?
Well, like I said, there's not much going on here right now, right?
Mm.
So I mean, I'll be honest that way. Like, I don't know that I have any big plans in the next couple of months. Like, I don't know. I hate that. Like, I don't want to be the person who sits here and is like, yeah, like I have all these like big projects coming up and like I'm doing like da da da. Like, it's not genuine. Like, we're in a pandemic right now.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I do have my first live stream gig happening next month. Fingers crossed it doesn't get canceled. It already got moved once. But I'm doing something as part of the Ottawa Jazz Fest. So that's another big city here in Canada.
Cool.
So they have like a winter jazz fest. In normal times, it would be in front of an audience, but it's going to be live streamed, hopefully February 20th. So that's my next gig. It's the first
Cool.
one I've had since September. So I'm really, really stoked for it.
And this is with your band.
It's with my dad's band, actually.
Cool.
Yeah. So we do a lot of playing together and a lot of touring together. And so I've been very blessed that way to get a lot of guidance and a lot of opportunities through him. Yeah.
I want to ask you first of all, everybody
Yeah.
go check that out, and it's the Ottawa Jazz Fest live stream, right? And that's going to be
Yes.
February 22nd. What time and where can
20th, 20.
February 20th, and where can they look at that?
If you just check out like TD Ottawa Jazz Fest website or their Facebook page, I think it should be streaming from there, probably on YouTube too. It's up in the air right now because we're like under a stay-at-home order. So this was actually supposed to be happening a couple of weeks from now, but it got moved. So fingers crossed this one actually happens.
Okay, so y'all go in those places, check it out, and I'm sure there'll be like a donate button or there'll be some way.
Yeah, I
Okay.
hope so.
And, while I'm thinking about it, the song we played is it out? Is it from a new record?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a demo recording I did, and that's actually a couple of years old. So that's an older recording. And so what my plan is hopefully sometime in the next few months I will be going into the studio with a similar band, probably a lot of the same people, and recording my first album under my own name. So
That's so exciting.
yeah, I'm really excited about it and kind of nervous, but mostly excited. So yeah, it'll be kind of like a quintet thing. And a big part of that is definitely having the clarinet and voice together, just because I like when us weirdos stick together, you know. It's like a bit of an unusual instrumentation, I think. I can't think of too many examples of like clarinet and voice together in that setting. So I kind of like the way it works. Yeah.
It's a beautiful combination.
Guitar and
Thank you.
clarinet, you know, because it's like the way it sings. Well,
Mhm.
guitar sings, I mean.
Whoo!
So I do want to ask you a question about
Mhm.
failure. I'm curious how you measure failure, and how those failures have led to your success.
Oh my God. Okay, these are big questions. Let me think about this for a second.
This is introspection part 2.
Yeah, this is too much for me. No, I'm kidding. How do I measure failure? Well, I think that it's changed. I think that historically I've been one to be very hard on myself. I'm very, very self-critical, and I'm very prone to getting inside my own head a little bit too much. And so some ways, at first I was like, oh God, this is too much time to think this past year. But it's turned out to be a blessing because, like I said, it's kind of led me to some, I don't want to say revelations, but just thoughts in how I can get past those mental hurdles. Because to me, that is what failure was. It wasn't like a real thing. It wasn't a tangible thing. It was just these mental ideas, I guess, I had about, what is right and what's wrong, and it can be so many things. When I was younger, it was like messing up an intro or like an ending on a song. There were these small things that I used to torture myself about. And that was failure to me. Like, I failed tonight. I didn't play the right thing on this gig or whatever. It was so much smaller. And I guess I would say now, not to get too whatever, but failure to me now is not being able to be honest with myself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So that is failure to me, where I'm at now. Success is being the most honest artist and person that I can be.
I love that answer. I love that. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Some wisdom right there. It's 9 months of quarantine.
I've been doing a lot of thinking
Right.
and watching TV.
Yeah. Well, going back a couple of minutes when you were talking about, so you mentioned watching TV, and then I rethought about you mentioning that you don't have too many things coming up in the immediate future. But,
Yeah.
I love that honesty too, because again, with the whole facade of Instagram, everyone is like, oh man, this person is doing that and this, and everyone's living a cool life. No, I'm actually just sitting on my couch, and it's sometimes it's important to be honest with the process. And I appreciate you being honest with us about, sometimes we're not creative. Sometimes sometimes it's not a good time to practice. Sometimes it's all right to take some time off and live life, watch TV, read a book, go outside. Like, that's all part of the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm with you there for sure.
Yeah.
And listen, we're coming up on time here. And before we go, I do want to give everybody an opportunity to follow and click and like and comment and DM you all the places they can do that. And also to buy any t-shirts you have for sale, clarinet reeds. What stuff you clarinet players sell? I don't know.
Clarinet reeds? I don't know. I'm not at that level yet. I don't have my own clarinet reed brand.
You don't sell your used reeds online?
That's right. All right. Yeah. So tell us all the places where people can connect with you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh shoot. I'm gonna forget like all of my handles now. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. So Virg FM. So VIRG FM. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. You can search Virginia MacDonald. Okay, and you can find me there. Twitter, which I don't really use. I'm trying to. I'm sorry for all of y'all that use Twitter. I don't know. I don't really get it. It's Virg FM Music. And then I also just created a YouTube channel. I'm trying to be more active on there. Oh, I don't remember what it is. If you search my name, it'll come up. I'm so bad at this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a social media pro.
Work in progress.
Right, we're working on it too. So y'all make sure y'all Google her and figure out all the places she is. Like, comment, subscribe, DM, buy any used reeds or t-shirts that she's selling at the time. And yeah, Virginia, thank you so much for coming on the Working Artist Project.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. It was nice to chat. And hopefully we get to play sometime soon. It'd be really dope to share the bandstand with both of you.
That would be amazing. And also, you know, before we leave, I just wanted to shout you out and say congratulations on the placing first on the ICA's
Yay.
COVID clarinet competition.
Thank
For those of
you.
you watching, Virginia. Oh, whoa.
Ooh.
Virginia did place first in the jazz category there was a virtual COVID clarinet competition. So shout out to you, and I look forward to seeing the performance that should be posted somewhat soon.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube? Oh,
It's on YouTube. It's up there.
I'm gonna go steal all those licks.
All right, y'all. My name is Darian Douglas.
My name is Gregory Aji. Thank you, Virginia, so much for your time.
Thank y'all. I hope you have a good night.
That's right. Catch y'all later.
Later.